All right, thank you. So we have a few items on the agenda today, not too many. Start off, DAF has just been filling out the info here. We've got a set of blockers we identified last time. DAF, I'll just let you speak to these.
Yeah, this just is a list of the ones that I'm aware of right now. Progress should, I'm hoping to get at least half of these done today. I've got all day to play with it. It's no other interruption, so I'm hoping to make some serious progress. I'll give people daily updates on the Ether dev channel of each of these. Am I missing any that people here are looking at?
I think there was a second image issue, BusyBox in the Ether registry. That one, I think that maybe is a tiny bit less high priority, but
Okay.
One more thing in the list I see, the NSSF and the metric funds, the issue also shows up in the SCTP-LB repo. Same issue.
I'm sorry, which one?
The bullet about the NSSF and metrics fund,
Mm-hmm.
also the SCTP-LB repo.
TP?
CTP, yeah, without the dash. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So the issue with this GitHub Access key out of date. Oh, I guess that's the issue with the
Yeah, that's
Jenkins.
the base functionality. I just haven't
Okay.
updated it.
Okay, yeah. Okay, those three have that same issue.
Okay. Thank you.
Jeff, does this list cover the problems we were having with Honest Live Go?
No, thank you. That's the GitHub action, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jeff.
There's like three, I think, if I go all the way. All right. Beyond that, let me just apologize and try and get to these as soon as I can. But I will give up to date dailies and EtherDev on what gets achieved.
thank you. I just put a spot in here to talk about any core or RAN topics that is on anyone's mind. Anyone have any?
Nothing specific, Larry. I think we have been busy just approving the various pull requests to bring it to the mark where we can generate the new Helm chart with the updated image tags, right? So,
Yep.
so then we can release the and we can test it, of course, once like if all the updated images are working fine or not.
So
Just
this might be related to the issue down below on tagging releases. Is there in the sense of when do you know you're done and you declare a release? Maybe I'm stretching that too far.
Yeah, well, I'm happy to talk about it. I added this topic. I don't know if you wanted to talk about the other ones before, but it's up to you.
In your mind, is it a related issue?
Well, somewhat. We can talk about them independently. Like one is the first question is when to decide that what you have is a release, but the second is where do you associate releases with code? And my concern is really about that where part.
Okay, let's postpone it because I think it's a bigger topic generally, and then we'll come back to it.
just before we move, Larry, one clarification. Ajay, for the PRs, I have been kind of like testing the images to make sure that everything works, at least with it in the box, and then approving and merging them.
Right. I want to make sure that like we have all the updated images and testing it. Like currently, it might be like you may be taking only the new image for the specific PR, but rest of the images could be old one.
Okay.
Right? So
yeah, that's correct. Okay.
So does every one of these images imply a different Helm chart?
No, I think a whole SD core is single Helm chart. Only thing is we have to update those image tags in the Helm charts. So the default images will be the latest code.
Well, this is kind of related to Ether in a box. So on-ramp always tests the latest Helm chart, which if it's updated with the latest images, is the latest images too. But it doesn't sound like that's happening.
No. Okay.
Well, right. So that's what I'm trying to get to, though, and maybe this is a release-related question, but I would like to know that if you're declaring a new, we're leaking into the new release thing, but that it runs with on-ramp as well. That at one time that we had a bar. It was at one time Ether in a box, but I would like to know what it is, and I have a definition with on-ramp, which may or may not be the right one.
Okay.
So maybe I go back to what I think it was Gabriel that said that you were testing individual images.
Yep.
You were just manually including them. Is that a right statement?
Correct.
Yeah,
Yes,
okay.
I had to make changes in the Helm charts to point them to my local image that I create based on the specific PR to make sure that everything works fine.
Okay, so that's a perfectly good model, which is you're testing on the local modification to the Helm chart to get the local images. At some point, you check in the candidate new Helm chart. We went down this path months ago. At the point you check in a new Helm chart, then it kind of bumps up to the level of, does it integrate in other ways? That's when on-ramp would see it. Am I making any sense?
I'm not quite following.
Can you say that, Larry, again?
You're locally testing a modified Helm chart that includes the new images, is what I interpreted.
That's right. I think when Gabriel is saying that he's testing new images, that means he must be modifying it locally, and that's where he was facing problem that SD core is not so.
The Helm charts are not flexible
he
enough.
found it difficult. Yeah, he found it difficult to use the local images. Yeah.
Got it. So my point is, after you're satisfied with that, you will have a local modified Helm chart, which will be the candidate to check in as the new SD core Helm chart.
But we don't do that. So typically we first go ahead and commit the code, and once the build is generated and the new images or new Docker container image is pushed into the registry, right? Then we make the next commit where we clone the Helm chart, and now we take the that updated tag and then update the Helm chart, right? So we don't do it immediately in one shot. We allow that.
Okay, good. Very good. Thank you. All right, and now, so we're just now spelling out the sequence of events. That's good.
Yeah.
And at some point, you will then believe that Helm chart is a good one, and merge it. And at that point, then I'll on-ramp will test it.
That's right. Yeah.
All right. And that's not exactly tagging releases, but it's part of the process. So let's come back to it and visit these other ones since we're moving down this list here. Are there any SD-RAN? I'm sorry, are there any other core issues? Okay, SD-RAN topics.
No, I don't think we have anything on the list currently.
Okay. QA, I saw Kunal putting some items in here.
Yeah. Yes, right. So I have gone through the UE ransom configuration, and we are trying to use a local IPv3 server. So what we have figured out that container is not an issue right now. We can see packets moving through a container, but what we have seen is the tunnel interface is not initiating any packets towards the IPv3 server, and due to that we are seeing those failures. and we are getting an error of resource temporary unavailable. So for that, we are also looking at the alternatives for the throughput test, so that we just um, find a uh, workaround for throughput test, and we will come back to iPerf 3 again and try debugging that.
So I would propose a slightly different workaround here, which I will just note in a comment, and then we can see if I can capture this. And what I would propose is that part of the reason for doing the iPerf locally was to get a local throughput measurement, but there was a second motivation for that, which was to demonstrate how to run a local breakout edge app. And iPerf was just an example. So what I would propose is that we postpone or we separate out the this iPerf running locally and just consider that a second independent feature because it was really killing two birds with one stone. And declare victory on what we have and get that finalized. So finalize what we have.
Sure.
And then, as a separate task, so to speak, come back and I just suggested iPerf running locally as a perfectly good example of a local edge app because it has I think it has all of the features that we want, which is you need to be able to reach it locally from a UE and without leaving the Kubernetes cluster. And there may be other things going on there that are just complicating that. So it was less, to my mind, it was less valuable as a throughput test and more valuable as a demo of an edge app. In any case, so set that aside. You do have something that's working perfectly well. Let's declare that what we're doing, and then it's a matter of documenting it. And just documentation, by the way, there's a whole bunch of things to document, like the SD-RAN blueprint is now ready, but that depends on Docker base. So that hopefully we can start checking those docs in soon. Yeah, let me just make note of that. Okay. All right, saving logs to Google Drive. You've done a local trial of that. Go ahead.
Yeah, Pallavi has done a local trial on that, and she was able to see the files getting uploaded on Google Drive. We are just awaiting for the new user that we have requested to Michelle for the new user creation. So once that generic user is available, or the Jenkins user that we have requested is available, we will integrate it with our code, and we will use this G Drive utility for uploading logs to the Google Drive.
Okay, thank you. So I want to just open the question again for everybody. Is there a better place to stick these log files than Google Drive? Is it not kosher to check them into GitHub?
So Larry, is it possible to have some small write-up like whatever is proposed by JSLab? So it's easy to probably give some comments offline.
I'm sorry, is it possible to have what?
Is it possible to have one small write-up about what exactly is proposed and what are the other options evaluated?
Well, so all that's being proposed is anytime a nightly build fails to write the GNB sim log files or any other log files that you ask for, like the AMF log files, to a place that the community can go access them for debugging purposes. And the only question is, well, where do we write them? That the community, i.e. you, can get to them.
And currently we are saying that, okay, let's write it on the Google Drive and it's public.
Yeah, Google Drive just seemed like an obvious place, but I'm just wondering if there's a better place to put them.
Okay.
It's a little weird. I don't know. I mean,
Yeah,
using Google.
logically we should have some file server or something, but
Well, I mean, everything else we have is stored in GitHub. So I was just asking, is it not kosher to put log files in GitHub?
yeah, I mean, why not? I mean, I have not seen people doing it, but you can always commit the thing. But what is the size and all? Like, what is the typical size of these logs?
They're not
And
huge. Yeah, I can't say off the top of my head, but I bet they're not a lot more than like 10K.
and currently, when we run Jenkins, then also we do have some logs, right, where they are stored then, or because they are build logs we can see, right? I mean, I can go on Jenkins, I can scroll to the older build run, and I can see what exactly happened, why exactly it failed.
Yeah,
So where are
so I
those
mean, one thing
Jenkins
that we
logs
could
stored?
do maybe is just cat. Maybe that's what we need. All we need to do is cat the log files when it fails. Then it'll be part of that console display.
Yeah, then it can remain at the same place where your Jenkins is, right? So we don't have to correlate or put cross link
Yeah,
anywhere.
that might be a good idea because I mean the log files go away because if you start with a fresh VM and you run the test all over again. So the log files are gone. But if you cap them, they would be captured in the console output.
Yeah, I think we should evaluate if existing mechanism can be reused. So
And then how long would those be good? How much history do we have there?
It depends. Each job has a different threshold of how many jobs it keeps.
All right, actually this sounds good. So let's make that the plan. I think it's a cleaner one and as AJ points out, it keeps things coordinated or you get the association. Okay, a new plan.
and probably we can help in defining retention plan. So like if there is some build success or something, consecutive few success, then we don't need to keep those older failures or something. So
So
it will
cat the
save space
relevant
as well.
log files so they show up in the Jenkins in the console.
Just
Okay,
wanted
so the
to
relevant
check.
log files here will be um, GNB sim log. Am I remembering it right? Or is it dot log? Do we want the AMF log?
Uh,
That seems like the most likely problem.
yeah, most likely it's either AMF or SMM. That's where we currently our focus is mostly on those areas. Yeah.
Let's start there.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see how it goes. Yeah. Yeah. Otherwise, like if we the best ways to, like, if there's any failure, run some job on the same cluster and pull out all the required logs, and then make one tar file and put it right. So
Yeah.
so
Well, I
that
mean,
way, like,
the other thing is when you see something that, well, it's a timing problem. It doesn't fail every time. So
yeah.
just because you saw it fail, if you went and ran it manually so that you could get a look at the log files yourself, then it may or may
Yeah.
not fail the same way. So we may need to limit the history of runs. All right. I think that's a good plan. Let's. All right. So intermittent attached failure issue, what is that?
Yeah, right. This one is the one that we have discussed about whenever there is a uh, out of five UEs, only four UEs gets passed or three UEs gets passed. So we have added a retrap block whenever there is a failure. We are retrying it for 2 times.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that generated a similar result. So for the first run, we could see four UVs getting passed, and the second run was showing up three UVs getting passed and two were failed. So
So AJ, did you catch that? They sometimes modified at least some of the tests so that if it failed, they would immediately try to run GNB Sim again, under the assumption that the reason it failed is that it just ran too soon, and it was still failing the second time through.
Okay, and then okay.
and just to add, we have also added around 120-second sleep. So I think
Okay.
score
And
has
mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, so last time we had said that either it could be a intermittent issue and on retry it would disappear, but it has not happened. And then I believe you had said that you were observing some MongoDB crash. Was that the case now as well in this case?
So the question is MongoDB?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I can do one thing, like I can precisely send you exact steps how to look for what are the exact subscribers there. So this is very clear reason that why it is failing. Most likely the configuration has not reached to MongoDB. Either it reached the MongoDB, but MongoDB restarted, or it was not even pushed, right? So I'll provide you the steps how to exactly what document to be see, so that you are aware that configuration for that specific U is available or not, right? So that way probably you will be able to debug it right away. So instead of tearing down the setup, you can get into the MongoDB shell and then run few commands and carry out some debugging. Is that okay?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So will there be an issue related to the
Hmm.
graceful you can say cleanup of the UE? Maybe the UEs which were earlier connected were or attached were not getting disconnected properly.
No, we do handle those things. If there's any previous context present in the core network, and if you initiate one more attach for the same subscriber, we handle those things. So,
Yes.
but in your setup, is it like the same core network keeps running while you keep on running the various test cases? I mean, do you
Yes.
suspect some stale data there?
Yeah, all they did is run GNB Sim run again.
No, yeah, this case I understood, but it's just that 2 times or maybe 3 times, right? It's not like long running core network where we are running the test for multiple days. It's
Correct,
not like that, right?
correct.
Yeah, then I don't think that should be the issue, right? So I'll probably help with the precise commands which can be run to find out the configuration in the core network. We have to find out why the configuration is not making it to the DB, right? So
All right, so AJ to provide
yeah, I'll provide it on the SD code channel, so it
commands
will
to
be
manually
useful for
test.
everyone. Yeah.
Sure.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good, thank you, both of you. Okay, let's come back to this discussion point, which is tagged releases. And I want to just try to capture the current, and by the way, I think we're about to have a topic specific to SD core because different subsystems do different things, I believe. So the current SD core practice, and I want to try to get the sequencing we just talked about above. Images with a locally modified Helm chart. And then when stable, update the registry with the new images. And then as a separate step, check in updated Helm chart. And then as a final step this is on-ramp integration test with latest Helm chart. And then as a final test is on-ramp makes latest the default once that's stable. So that's kind of the
Okay,
current
so
practice.
yeah, so let me add a few things, right? So what your call flow you have described in these 5 steps, right, Larry? That is the flow typically good enough for some bug fixes coming in. So like first line, right, let's say Gabriel is doing some changes in the one of the repository. He does the changes and he takes the current latest Helm chart, and then he finds out if he's updating the specific network function, if everything is working well.
Right.
As soon as he's done, so he raised the pull request. The second one, right? And once the pull request is merged, the second one update the register with the new images. That is through the job. So as a CI portion,
Right.
that happens through
CI
CI.
does this. Right.
Yes, CI does that.
Thank you. So the top
Yeah,
one is manual.
yeah. And third one is also like now it's up to Gabriel to go and update the Helm chart. Not many developers do that. So most of the time I go and update the whenever I say there's a significant change which we want to make sure that
Right. So
available for should be
it's
available for
a
rest of the community. Yeah.
yeah. So it's a this is a key. What would we call it? It's a key threshold.
Yeah,
Right.
correct. So if we
It's
keep
not
doing
taken
this
lightly.
first, yeah, if we keep doing first and second, those changes are not available for the community, whoever is just using the default Helm chart, because they will not be getting these new tags.
Correct.
Right. Not so this is not visible
Hmm. Yeah, I
to
mean,
others.
if somebody is expert, he can go and update the override files and then use the latest images, but not many people do that.
Right.
People just, yeah.
And just to add something to this, like some of the problem here comes from the fact that in GitHub there is no releases. Like 1.3,
Yeah.
for example, doesn't mean anything in GitHub. So your Helm charts, instead of pointing to 1.3 and developers being able to add patches to 1.3, it points to a specific commit. So every time you have commits, you need to update your Helm charts, which, well, of course, is not sustainable. Like as we do.
Well, no. So it's not every time. It's when you choose to. That's why that third major bullet is a quote unquote threshold. You actually have to have changed a tag. I believe it's the case that there is a tag file in the repo that when that changes it is when it becomes official.
This is not used currently. There's no tagging of versions that is recent in GitHub for SD core.
Okay, so yeah, let me probably add some data, right? So yeah, you're right. Like we don't update the any release tags in the GitHub. So mostly our release is something controlled through Helm charts. So as and when we find there is a significant change, whether it's a minor change or patch version change, we keep updating the Helm charts. And then anyone who wants to have the specific release or specific patch release, he can take out the right Helm charts, and then like they don't need to worry about the release. But this works well for the users who are not worried about the how code is developed and who is developing, right? It really works well for this model because they just go pull one of the Helm chart, whatever they find appropriate based on the documentation website, and then use it, right? But if we go and visit the GitHub, you don't get any idea what's happening, what release it's ongoing, what's content is part of which release, right? So unfortunately, this is how the whole CI thing is designed. And only way to really get started is that visit the documentation website, and then that tells you like what is the current release and what is the Helm chart versions.
So AJ, I think what you're describing though is not the way other aspects of Ether work. So maybe Sean and or Scott can chime in here. It is also the case that there's a CI mechanism that detects changes in the version file, which is the official version, and triggers activity. It basically triggers the check-in of the Helm chart in the same way you're triggering the check-in or visibility of the images. And I think SD Core just didn't adopt that, but could have, or maybe still could. And Scott and Sean, is
Yeah.
this too distant past for you to remember how this works?
Yeah, I'm just racking my brain while you're talking. I mean, I think yes, if you change the number in the version file, it publishes the Helm chart to the Helm repo, and that's the method of publishing.
So in other aspects of Aether, the version that you see in the repo corresponds to the version number of the Helm chart. That's why when I say
Yes,
to
yes,
136, that really
that's
means something.
yes, it does. Yeah. And similarly for images, I mean, there's kind of a parallel point, but they're published on that version change as well.
So this is exactly same, right, Larry? Even in the SD core, it's same.
It is the same. Then that does seem, and there is also, by the way, a GitHub tag.
That we don't SD core. We are not doing those tagging things, and we did sometime lazy tagging as and when we found that we want to fix some bugs in the previous release, right? But it's not like every time we are releasing the Helm charts with some, let's say 1.1 SD core or 1.2 or 1.3, we are not going and tagging because the number of repositories are too much, and we it like and it's like so many models, right? Going and tagging all these models is a big task, right? So that's the reason we never did that. So
But
we just
even
said.
the
The tagging, I think the tagging is most relevant for Go modules. It's part of the Go
Yeah, that we do,
module
Sean.
kind of
Yeah,
publishing
that
scheme.
correct. That we do so that when any other network function is importing those models, right, they are pinned to specific tags. But those tags are individual tags for those models. They may not have any relevance or one-on-one mapping with the SD core releases because they have their own independent functionality and releases.
Mhm.
But even the version file that you mentioned that is in the SD core project, it's not used. If I look at the AMF, for example, it's still tagged at 0.0.1. So it is not effective, like even though
Correct.
there's a
Yeah,
file.
yeah. That version file is not at all used.
I'm sorry, I was mistaken. I meant the version file when I was saying the tag file. The version file is exactly the one I was referring to, AJ. That
That's
is
right.
what is
So
used, for example, in Rock, but I don't think it's used in it. You just said you're not using
no,
it.
I think the question is that we
Oh,
have two repo, right? Helm charts and the various code repositories. So in the Helm chart, we use version exactly what you have described here. Like it based on that version file, we tag the new Helm charts if that dev is removed from that, right? But what the question is like actually coming is that what do we do with the version which is there in the AMF or SMF repository? And we are not really doing anything with those versions. Because those versions are not used because we are just using the git commit tags actually, right?
So
So
you used the Git.
We're not using the git commit tags. We're in GitHub, we're at 1.1.1, which is like, so we're not effectively using it.
so actually when CI runs, right, and when we commit the image into the registry, right, that's where those tags are used, the latest tags, and that's how the image is pushed. So if you see in the container registry, you will not see like 0.0.1 AMF dash 0.0.1. You will see something AMF dash some git, so 8 bits of that commit. So it's in that hidden. So it's not seen like in the when you look at the code, it's not seen, but as a part of CI process, those latest commit tags are used.
Yeah, in the container image, I understand. But here I'm
Yeah,
really talking about the code itself. Like if I look at GitHub and I want to make a change, I have no clue whether I'm making a change to 1.2, 1.3, 1.5. I cannot add a patch. Let's say 1.3 is broken and I want to add a fix to it. There's no way to do this.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that.
So I think so. Let's take example like 1.2 or 1.3. You want to make some patch, right? So typical process what we have followed is that so we should know at what commit the 1.2 release is made, and then if we have already a branch for 1.2, that's good. If not, then we create the branch, and then we add the that's. But typically we have not got into the situation of creating many branches. So, but yeah, I mean, it would be good to create those branches all the time and keep it ready. So if somebody just sees the code, he knows that what exactly branch releases have been made.
I mean, some of that can be automated. Like, for example,
Yeah.
if every project uses the version file, you can have some CI step that looks if there was a change there, and if yes, then you create a new release in GitHub. Like, it doesn't have to be manual, tedious.
Yeah,
task.
agree. So exactly this is what is done in the Helm chart. Sorry. So in the Helm chart, we don't update that version file very frequently. We update the version file only when we need to tag it. Right. So I think precisely you are seeing the same thing in the GitHub code also. We can use the version file same way. Yeah, Sean.
Yeah, I was just going to say I wanted to walk back what I said earlier about our use of that version file. I think when I looked in the code while you were talking, and actually we take the version of the Helm chart that is published is the version in the chart.yaml file. It's not the one from the version file. I just wanted to correct that. Because
say that again, Sean.
Yeah, in a repo, Larry, say for instance, like you bonus Helm charts or something like this, you have many charts in there, and there's only one version file at the root. So in fact, it doesn't use the dot version file or the version file at the root. It looks at the chart.yaml of the individual Helm chart, and that's what it publishes.
Yeah.
So Larry, like probably I can produce a document. I think a long time back I had put that in the somewhere in the Google Drive. But anyways, I can write it so that it gives better clarity, like how SD core releases are managed. And then if there is a scope to even generate automatic branches or tagging the code in the GitHub, I think that we can identify the activity from that.
I already added a bullet, and then both. You can bring the first draft since you've got it, but it would be good to have everyone else's eyes on it. So
okay, so can you create some Larry, some dummy file and share it with me so that I can add it, because I'm not sure what is a common place where I can write.
All right, so I will send you a Google Doc.
Yeah, I think just empty one is good enough, and then I'll just add content there. Yeah,
I will do that immediately after this, and share it with you. Okay, good. Long time coming, and it would my understanding, which may be incorrect, is that the practices between just, for example, ROC and SD core and SD-WAN were not 100% consistent. So the more we could bring them into alignment, probably the better, but I don't think it necessarily has to be, as long as they're all documented.
Yeah, and also in alignment with, honestly, most like big open source products will tag releases, like on GitHub. Really, for a developer perspective, it's really helpful.
Yeah, I mean, it is the case that we are emerging out of a managed service where continuously deploying the best you had and you never went backward. Practically speaking, we never went backwards. We didn't have a GA release that we had to maintain for 5 years. So we are doing something different now than had been set up originally. All right, this would be really good to have, and maybe we'll have a draft we can take a look at as a group next week. Is there anything else?
Yeah, Larry, I would like to put a point on discussion, because a lot of my colleagues comes to me and asks this question, where exactly we can document our bugs, or if they face any issue, how they can reach out to the developers and discuss those issues. So I have, I mean, majorly I have always directed them towards the Slack, but there are some issues that whenever they need some quick fixes or they just want to have a discussion with the developers. So, what should be the right way of doing that?
Well, you said two different things. One is where to post bugs.
Yes, one is for posting bugs, and the other one
And
is
the
to
answer to that
reach out.
is there is a Jira. I mean,
Mhm.
we don't. AJ, do you look at Jira?
Which one? Which Jira? Sorry.
Well, a Jira where SD4 bugs are posted.
Yeah. I didn't see any recent update in last few days at least. Otherwise, I do get email like if there's any update on any of the existing Jira.
So the answer is still Jira, even though we don't do bug scrubs or talk about it here. Where to engage in discussion. And the answer is probably Ether Dev.
But for Jira, people need accounts, right?
Yeah.
Who doesn't? So DAF, who has accounts? I thought.
Generally, any ONF users should be in the all users and be able to file tickets. They may not be able to update or edit them, but they can file tickets and read them.
Yeah, but a bunch of people may want to use SD core without having an ONF account, right?
Yes. So we have a few consumers who are using Ether or SD Core. So they do not have a ONF account.
Okay, let me just double check on that. I don't think we have anonymous, but I haven't looked lately.
And if I can suggest something, GitHub is also a good place to file issues.
Let's choose any.
Yeah, actually, that's not a bad idea for broader audience if it's problematic to grant anonymous access to Jira.
Yeah,
That's a problem.
along with the filing issues on GitHub, you can also have discussions in there. Just for questions, not necessarily when there is problems and things like that. That can help further use GitHub capabilities.
Yeah, so right now there's no anonymous access to SD Core project. In fact, looks like fairly minimal. Right now, you have to be in a defined group rather than even that's the all users group to talk to the SD Core project on the ONF Jira. So that can be changed pretty trivially.
Sure.
Well, why don't we go ahead and do that? So this is anonymous post to Jira.
Yeah, how much permission do you want to give them?
Well, until we discover there's a problem, I would just say anonymous posting. And if
No.
that proves to be a problem,
Okay,
is
they can
that, you think
create
that's,
post and then see any, they can create the issue and they can look at any updates to the issue. Or do you want them
yeah,
to update and edit?
if that's an option.
Okay. All right, let me add that. Just SD core?
Um, I I think it's probably fine to do it more broadly across the Ether sub projects.
Okay. Okie dokie.
And I mean, we have, yeah, I'm scrolling back to the top. Ether, we have these four. I think, well, 1, 2, 3, yeah, I think we have those four.
Yeah, yes. I mean, There's a lot of different projects in there, but okay.
Yeah, I mean, start with SD core and this maybe we'll just get it right there.
Okay.
All right. Anything else? All right. Thank you, everybody. And I will get AJ a Google Doc. Reminder myself. All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.